Welcome back to Leadership Roundtable. I am joined today by some of my distinguished and repeat guests. And again, we have a topic today that we think is impacting a lot of industries. My name is John Doolin, founder of Doolin Strategy Partners, and I'm here with Oak McCullough. Oak, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Army, 23 years on active duty. I'm an author, published author of a book on leadership, and I do keynote talks and just started some coaching and mentoring with businesses as well.
I'm retired Lieutenant Colonel Oakland McCullough. I'm an internationally recognized keynote speaker and a published author. I have over 40 years of proven leadership experience in combat, peacekeeping, disaster relief operations, and in the boardroom. Good leadership is needed in every organization and at every level, regardless of the profession. Leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter where you learned it, it doesn't matter where you practiced it. If you understand that leadership is about people and trust, you can lead any organization. The goal of my leadership talk is that everybody in attendance will walk away with concrete takeaways that will help them improve their leadership skills and abilities and empower the people they have the privilege to lead. And it is a privilege to be better. The people who attend my talk will walk away with 4 concrete takeaways. First is building a winning culture. Second is to build effective and efficient teams that are built on 360-degree trust. The third is to help them to become better decision makers. And the last one, the fourth one, is to help build an organization that is focused on getting results. Helping people become better leaders truly is my passion. I'm going to help the people who attend my talk be better leaders, the leaders they were meant to be.
My name is Carl Larson. I'm an executive coach with Novus Global. We're a coaching firm of almost 50 coaches at this point who work with leaders, artists, and athletes around the world. Everything from former military to professional athletes to Fortune 500 CEOs and executive teams to people running a business out of their basement. What makes us unique compared to other coaches is we are a team of coaches. So what we do really well is work within organizations to coach an entire team towards the goals of the organization as well as the goals of the individual.
Thanks, Carl. That's what we're and Mike, if you want to introduce yourself and kick us off.
All right. So I'm Mike Donito. I'm a licensed psychotherapist here in New York City. And I guess I'll start it out with, so the topic for today is self-care and leadership. So this topic actually came up from one of my staff when we were talking about how I separate myself from work and life. Ever since the pandemic, what we've seen, at least in my industry, the human services industry, is there's been that mesh. We got the work from home. A lot higher acuity clients are coming out. We end up a lot more people having mental health disorders, and those that had them having more severe symptoms, things of that nature. So it's bled into the leadership mainly. I mean, line staff, it's a little easier for them to shut down at the end of the day, but the leadership who have to manage 24/7. So that's the topic. I just want to kind of see how other people are managing it, as well as it's something that I haven't actually sat down and thought about.
I think it's a powerful topic, and I'm really excited to hear what Oak and Carl have to say about it with just such diverse experiences there. So I will save my opinion till the last. And Carl, do you want to go ahead and kick off your perspective on this?
Oh, man. So self-care is probably one of those important topics that people don't really think about. I look at it from the perspective of how we look at performance. So at Novus Global, or I guess I should say, most people look at performance as having 3 levels. Low performers, performers and high performers. And most people are looking to become that high performer. Our perspective is that there's actually a fourth level of performance, which is meta performance, which is what we call it. And meta is in metamorphosis, not as in Facebook. And when I think about self-care, what I think about is there's a phrase that we use in the firm that is always rest, never coast. And what that means is that there's a flow and a difference of speed in what you're up to, but it doesn't exactly mean that you just like take your foot off the gas and just like let it go. But it's really a question of like, hey, how do you actually get refreshed when you rest and then get back into the driver's seat and go? You can think about it from, and we'll get into this later, but a lot of spaces at work are sprinting a marathon. So people want to, like, they have an objective, they have a sprint, they have the quarterly goal, and they hit it. And then they immediately go into the next one. And so they sprinted, and then instead of taking a second to rest, like we see with high performers and athletes, and probably for most people listening to this, right? You do a workout and then you don't immediately go into another workout. You generally work out, you rest, and then you work out again, and then you rest. And most people at work don't have that kind of rhythm to what they're.
I see that a lot. I've seen it in every industry I've worked in, and so I think it's very common. So, Mike, I'm curious with what Carl shared. What do you see from your profession? Is he spot on, or is there kind of a blend?
So, I mean, there is a blend of that because, like I said, your line staff can pretty much shut down at the end of their 8-hour shift or their 12-hour shift, whatever they're working. But as leaders, win sprints. I got to get to that next audit. I got to address those next findings. I got to get to this next thing. And I'll give an example. So since we last met, I've taken on a new role. So now I'm the director of a mobile crisis team. So we're the team, we carry no clients. We're the team that you call if the person hasn't already started harming themselves or others. All right. So if they have suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, we're 24/7. All right. So getting that set up was, okay, I need to hit this next objective. I need to get this objective. I need to hit that objective. I need to get all these things in place so that we can roll out 24/7 in a safe and productive way so that we can manage the influx of calls that we're going to get. So with that being said, as a leader, you're not allowed, there was no opportunity. There still is no opportunity. I got a call at 2:00 this morning from a staff something came up. They needed me. I was the first one on the phone. So those types of things. But yeah, so I mean, in our field, it feels like, let's put it this way. The general understanding is that you just get to that next objective. There isn't really that ability to step back and say, okay, I met this objective. Let me take a week's vacation. Because, I mean, when I take vacation, I come back to 2 weeks worth of work that I need to complete in 1 week. So I'm working, I take a 1 week vacation. I come back, I'm working an 80-hour week the next week, 60 to 80 hours to catch up on what I missed from that 1 week. So I don't really know how much of a vacation that is. It always pisses me off to come back to that much work and ruins any peace I got on the vacation. But yeah, and I'm glad you, Carl, that you clarified the meta. I'm like, what is he saying? Going to virtual reality? I'm like, what's this third? So when you're sleeping, you're working in the metaverse?
It's a new headset.
It's a new headset. We get you 24/7 now.
So, Oak, shifting over to your side, not just in your current situation, but going back to your military service, from the outside looking in, I never made it above E4, so I have no idea really what goes on in those adult ranks. But I'm curious on how you balance that, and does it relate specifically to what Carl said, or is it closer aligned to what Mike said?
Yeah, so I want to address something that Mike said, with people working at home. I think that because even even in my job before I retired, where I was recruiting for Army ROTC, I was recruiting across the nation because the school I was recruiting for is a national draw. So I was trying to recruit. I live in Daytona Beach, Florida. I was recruiting kids in Seattle, Washington that played baseball, basketball, football, and got home from practice at 6 o'clock at night. Well, that's 9 o'clock my time. So if I wanted to talk to them, I'd talk to them in the evening. So I was kind of on all the time as well. But one of the things I figured out that really helped me working at home, different hours, on call, on those things, is that I separated at least my work from my life in where I did it. So I never took a call in the living room. When I got a phone call, I got up and I came in my office and I sat down and I did my work. This is my workspace, not my bedroom, not my living room, not the kitchen, right here. So I think if you can do that, that will help a little bit. At least then you're separating the two parts of your life, your work and your home, even when you're home working. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it certainly did help me and my relationship with my wife. So I think that's one thing. One of the things that as an officer that I figured out real quick is in the Army, we call it a battle rhythm. You can call it whatever you want, but you figure out what that rhythm is that you got to maintain. And there's certain times generally that are more busy than others. So you figure it out. So you get into that routine as much as possible. Because I'm a huge believer in routines. The more routines you can have, the easier your life is going to be. And the more at ease, even if you're really, really busy, the more at ease you're going to be if you can figure out routines to do it. So I tried to figure out the battle rhythm, and that's what I do is I try to help people figure out their battle rhythm as well, so that they can kind of anticipate what's coming up and what they still got to do. And I think, as Carl said, self-care is so important. And not only do people not think about it, but they don't do it. And, you've got to make that effort to do it. I don't care how busy you are. And I'm like you, Mike. When I go on a vacation, I pay for it coming back. I always have. But maybe you don't take week-long vacations. Maybe you take a half-day vacation. Somebody asked me one time, so how do you recharge your battery? The self-care piece of it. And I always tell people, for me, it's the 3 F's: faith, family, and fishing. I do one of those whenever I get a chance to kind of recharge my battery.
As long as you catch something, right?
Yeah, well,
I don't even need to catch
that
anything.
makes it better, but I don't even care. You're out there by yourself. You can think about whatever or not think about anything, but it's just out there by yourself. It always recharges my battery.
So, okay, I just want to echo a couple things that you said. Number one, the wife factor. In logistics, like Mike, my phone would ring 24/7, and the worst, and I hated it, was you knew when your phone rang anytime between midnight and 4 a.m.
It wasn't good.
No, that's somebody calling to say, "Hey, I will not be at loadout in the morning."
Yeah.
Which then sets off a panic, because if you're trying to protect the brand, you've got to find somebody else to take that load.
Sure.
And so one of the things that I've done is I do the separation as well. I don't do it as much anymore because, I work from home now and I'm home by myself a lot. And so I'm able to just take the call in my office. But what I would do is, the moment the phone would ring, if it was something I knew I had to do, I would get up and I'd walk out the front door, the back door, or if it was in the middle of the night, I actually would get up and go in the closet and close the door. And my wife and family could tell how severe the call was based on where I went. Because in logistics, we don't use proper English language. So I believe our language was invented by the Merchant Marine. But this is an interesting discussion to me, and Carl and I were texting last night, and I think it can be slightly controversial, currently self-care thing is coming under fire, and there's a certain population that says, toughen up, you're too soft, and I think the opposite end of that is, they're the folks defending self-care are saying you're the exact reason why we need self-care, and so it's for me, I remember very vividly a pivot point for me, and when I had taken on my first leadership role, I was trying to be one person at work, and then sighing, exhaling as I walked out the door that, now I can be myself and go do the things I enjoy. And I was having a conversation with somebody in an office once, and this person was, newly promoted to a leadership role. And because they came into the company while I was already in my leadership role, they just assumed I'd always been there. But I was maybe a year into this role, and they asked me, how do you balance this? How do you manage this? Because I feel responsible all the time. And it hit me right then. I'm like, well, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we feel responsible all the time? And then I realized, I'm like, oh, okay, because I leave here, and at that time I think I was probably more, Mike, you referred to them. You have a word that I think you call them line workers.
Yeah, line staff.
Okay, so I think I was really more in that category. Even though I was in leadership, I was only in leadership when I was on duty, and then when I left, someone else was in charge. And for me, I pivoted at that moment in my career. And what was interesting was the moment I made that pivot and I started to say, I'm going to be the same person. I'm not going to come to work and be who Stephen Covey says I should be. I'm going to be who I am all the time. And that was an incredible pivot moment for me to balance and say, there might be times where I take that 15-minute break in the middle of the day just for some John time, but I don't ever turn off. And I love what you're saying, Oak, about the faith, family, and fishing. I think those are, while they don't have to be the same thing for everybody, I think those are some great ways for people to recharge. And I know that faith can also be controversial to a lot of people, but I encourage it. I think that the moment I started allowing myself to introduce my faith-based leadership into my leadership style, that helped me to feel more balanced, because I had those moments to step back and say, what direction is the right direction to go? And because I'm firm in what I believe from a faith perspective, and I'm firm in what I believe in a leadership perspective, there's never really been a question for me. So I want to turn that question back around to Mike and Carl and ask you, so I'm going to have to come up with what I'm going to call it, Oak. I don't know if it'll be the 3 F's for me, because I cannot stand fishing. But fishing, golf, and basketball to me are some of baseball too. It's like watching paint dry. So I might have to come up with a different F, but we'll figure that out later.
Everybody's different, and everybody's going to have their own things, but you got to find what that is for you, whatever that is, that just lets you kind of relax and recharge your battery. And I would also throw running in that as well. That kind of always gave me my time to do whatever I wanted. But yeah, everybody's got their own. Got to figure out what that is for them.
Yeah, and there's something Oakland just said is really key. It's what is the thing that recharges you? Because there's rest, right? And you could probably come up with a list of things that are restful, like watching a movie, taking a nap, going out and listening to a podcast, or going for a run. And then those same things might not actually replenish you. So for me, going for a run is not a replenish thing. I ran cross country in high school and I hated every day of it. I'm not a big fan of running. And I also did a 25K earlier this year. So and there's, there's a juxtaposition there. But some of the things that do replenish me or recharge me is competing, playing board games, hosting other people, playing pranks, going for a hike, having deep connected conversations, right? Trying a new restaurant. Like there's these different things that actually replenish my energy versus rest. And so there's like this interesting space where it's like a lot of people think about self-care as like, ooh, I just gotta like take care of myself and like take all responsibility off. And it's actually it's self-care in itself is actually like taking care of yourself, which is what are the things that support you and keep you kind of at your peak versus like, what does it look like just to like take a break? It's like, well, what if like how do you just not just take a break, but rather use that break to actually replenish you? And that differs. One of the things that's standing out to me, I know we're coming up on the end of it, so I want to get this point in, is like one of the things I think that all of us have mentioned is like the importance of finding that support with other people. This has come up a lot for me recently, is like work with a coach, don't work with a coach. Like that's not the message that I have. Like, yes, I believe everybody should have a coach. Like that's part of the vision of the firm that I'm a part of. And what's really important is like, what are the relational spaces that you're submitting yourself to for the excavation of your best self? Mm-hmm. And it's like, that looks like, hey, where are you in community with people, growing and resting?
Yeah, I think that's great. Mike, Oak, do you guys want to add anything to that? And you don't have to, not putting pressure on you, because
I think you're absolutely right, Carl. I think, even if you're not looking at it as a coach and a mentor, and I do believe in both of them. I believe you got to have a mentor and you got to be a mentor. And I think that's healthy too, being a mentor, because it allows you to kind of pass things on it and just makes you feel like you've accomplished something besides just what you're doing, which kind of goes back to legacies and all of that kind of stuff. But I think just the community with other people, whether it's at work or in your personal life, because I'm like you. I mean, that helps recharge me as well. My wife and I just had lunch with some friends from church yesterday for an hour and a half, and I came back and I was recharged. It was just nice to be able to talk to people about things other than work, but just spend some time. So I think you're absolutely right. The personal relationship piece of it with other people is huge, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that as well. So Carl is correct. We are running up on time. So I want to thank my guests this week for your opinions and your thoughts. I think that we have laid out quite a bit for folks if they're looking for some solutions here. Mike, I hope that we've answered the question. I want to thank everybody for watching, and don't forget to not only subscribe on all the variety of different social media platforms that we're all on, but reach out to these guests, connect with them on social media, and start building those relationships.